A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. Apologies, we're starting almost 20 minutes into the hour of 10 o'clock on this third day of June 2018, which is also Martyrs Day, the National Martyrs Day. And for all those of you who trekked or conducted the pilgrimage to Namugongo and attended prayers in Namugongo and elsewhere across the country, wish to congratulate you. My name is Charles Mwangushampagi. And tonight, we will be doing a post-mortem of the Rukungiri by-election, which was won by the Forum for Democratic Change candidate, defeating the National Resistance Movement candidate, who was a former, an incumbent actually, in a sense, the former representative of that constituency. To discuss that with me, I have tonight in studio, starting from the extreme end, we have Robert Mugabe, not the former president of Zimbabwe, but Robert Mugabe is a member of the People's Progressive Party. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening, viewers.
The People's Progressive Party had a candidate in that election.
Sure.
Didn't it?
Yes, we did.
Okay, how did he perform?
Well, abysmally, but the reasons are clear. We had our own objectives.
Before you go to the reasons, abysmally, yes. How abysmal was the performance?
Well, I don't know what exactly you want, but in terms of the actual votes we got, is that what you want?
Yes, sure.
About 200.
About 200?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll listen to the objectives that you had.
Sure.
We have from the Forum for Democratic Change. Doesn't need a lot of introduction. Proscovia Salamu Musumba. Very nice to have you.
Thank you, Charles. Hi.
Salamu Musumba has been a member of parliament, has been a district chairperson, and has been vice chairperson of the Forum for Democratic Change.
Many things.
Many things. I was saying you don't need a lot of introduction. And from the National Resistance Movement. This camera is not being fair. That yellow is not coming out very well. Maybe somebody
it's the sharpest you've seen, eh?
Fred Bamwine. Fred Bamwine is RDC for Butambala district. Buyukwe now. Okay. But Buyukwe, he was RDC for Butambala before. He was RDC for Nakawa. You are RDC Nakawa. You are RDC Ruwaga, and you were a candidate in the 2016 election somewhere.
Kashari South.
Eh?
Kashari South.
Kashari South, which is very close. That's in Intungamo, very close to
Mbarara.
Mbarara. Yes. Fred, very nice to have you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, viewers and listeners of NTV. Okay,
I want to start with Honorable Salamu Musumba, because you were in Namugongo.
Yes, I was.
Yes, you're in Namugongo. Let's start with a brief on the matters. I thought that actually on this show we would have discussed a little bit more on the matters.
Yes.
There's a gentleman called Patrick Wandira. He's written a book on the other side of the matters, the story that's never told, contrary view to what the celebration and the common belief is.
The religious perspective.
Yeah, the religious perspective. He's looking at the political perspective. I thought some other day would have a good opportunity. Actually, the yellow is coming out very nicely there. I can see. So, Martyrs Day, you have all the major players in the politics of this country attending the mass and the service.
Yes.
President Yoweri Museveni shaking hands with Dr. Kizza Besigye. I saw a very warm handshake between Dr. Kizza Besigye and Dr. Wakana Rugunda. I saw John Patrick Amama Mbabazi in the same area, all of them together.
Yes.
Is this of any significance to our politics, especially coming out of a very fractious election in Rukungiri just the other day?
Well, these are buddies. These are bush buddies who have been shortchanged. They have memories of each other. They struggled together and they offered leadership together. They didn't get to where they wanted to go, but it doesn't take away the camaraderie that put them together and what they fought for. There was a missing link, and there's always been a missing link for me whenever I attend Namugongo. This is the Uganda Kingdom. Uganda Kingdom has been written out of the day's events, and is central to the history of who we are and where we are. The part of the Kabaka Mutesa I, inviting missionaries. He invited them. We were not invaded by the faith. and the fallout. And all that is missing. But well, happy Uganda Martyrs Day, all of you Christians out there. I thought we would reflect on what makes this day what it is today. When I was coming in, Bamwine said, "Oh, you're in red." I said, "Oh my God, this was the dress code,
yes.
the theme color for the day, because we were celebrating this day as the Archdiocese of Tororo, and therefore I, from the Ginger Diocese, was quite central in the day's events. From a Catholic point of view, it is a reflection of bearing true witness, and at times I get very disappointed with the Catholic leaders who have become reduced just to event people, but they do not practice the faith, and they do not even the lay people have tended to ignore us as leaders because we have nothing exemplary to show. And therefore, I will not go into all that because it's a day worth celebrating. The whole world has been celebrating this with us. And enjoy the day. Happy Feast Day.
Robert, let me have just a quick thoughts from you on that. One is that you have all the political actors meeting in one place, shaking hands, happy with each other. In 2012, I think, when we had
the Pope.
The Pope visiting,
Yes.
just a year after the elections, you had all these guys meeting together. And today, when pictures of Dr. Kizza Besigye shaking hands with President Yoweri Museveni were shared on the media, because we're broadcasting that live, immediately someone dug up a note that Dr. Kizza Besigye sent in 2016 when he was in prison, and wishing Ugandans a happy Martyrs Day. And people thought the Pope's visit and these subsequent interactions would help bridge the gulf that exists in our politics, and make our politics a little bit more humane, more about the people, more decent. Yes, thank you, more decent. But you don't see that. What you see is that Namugongo is growing bigger and bigger. What is difficult to explain is whether this enlargement is purely religious or touristy in a way, but how do these interactions help, and your own reflections on this day?
Well, Charles, to begin with, I think there is nothing really, as far as I'm concerned, personal between President Museveni and Dr. Besigye, for instance, and I think many of the colleagues that they fought with in the bush. I think what we are confronting is a situation of injustice, of unfairness, and as long as those exist, I think you are going to always see disagreements, sometimes bordering on bitterness, not because we hate the person of President Museveni, but because he's seated in this chair that is supposed to, transform lives and make our country better. I was just telling him before we came here that there's no president who has had the sort of opportunity that Mr. Museveni has had to transform this nation, but he let it go. And so for me, that is the gist of the matter. So symbolically, yes, shaking hands is a good thing. It's a good indicator. But as long as the issues that we have to deal with, to injustice, underdevelopment, poverty, all these issues are still existent in our society, we are going to have to disagree, and this will continue. How I wish that we could move from here to a different dispensation that brings in decency, but that's not right now. It's not possible.
It's not happening.
We just have to work towards that.
Fred, speaking in Namugongo today, President Yoweri Museveni has talked about our bodies being the temple of God, and then he questioned the ills that afflict society. He said, "How can your body be a temple when it's filled with so much immorality, so much?" He mentioned a few things, and then you ask and say, "But you are a leader."
Ask yourself.
Yes, you are a leader, and you're presiding over all you can't even summarize like the way he summarized it. Do these opportunities for political leaders especially to attend sanctified religious events like this offer them a personal reflection? Because some people are commenting because the president is coming, there is a lot of security, there is a lot of pushing, there is a lot of shoving, there is a lot of this. Some people look at that as even an inconvenience. But
very
it should,
big one,
yes,
yeah.
it should
Huge.
provide an opportunity even for leaders to have a moment to reflect and say, we are here. By the what divides us? What brings us together? Why do we have corruption? Why do we have ABCD? Your reflections on matters there, and then we'll move on to the post-mortem of the Rukungiri by-election.
Thank you so much. From the word go, I happen to have read history. And the history you read, which has come to be true, is that this issue of Namugongo, first of all, I don't think that the people who go to Namugongo understand what they are going to do or why they are going there. And Honorable Salam says Uganda is not clearly reflected.
Is missing.
And she has mentioned it, but it is missing. And I've been asking myself, by now I'm one of those who have never gone for those celebrations. And I've been asking
Is it a question of the weakness of your faith?
No,
or
I'm going to bring it out.
An ideological?
I've been asking myself, at that time, the Kabaka was a spiritual leader, he was the judge, and he was the chief administrator in Uganda. And he said, these people who have come are not good. They are coming to take over my kingdom, taking over my leadership, taking over my land. They are not good. Don't cooperate with them. In his wisdom, he made a ruling that those who have opposed him and collaborated, they should be killed. And you know, in Uganda here, there is a saying that once the Kabaka has said something, you don't question it. So I've been asking myself, if Muganda is going to Namugongo, is he saying the Kabaka was wrong? That has been my question, actually. If we have this belief, is it a belief? A saying that what the Kabaka has said is not questioned. And now we have a Muganda going to Namugongo. What does it mean? That's a question that is there. Because what he prophesied came to pass. Land was taken.
But I'm sure you're listening to...
Power was taken.
I'm sure you're listening to Salam Musumba when she said the missionaries came here on invitation. Yes, there is the element of rebellion and treason, if you would want to put it that way, because the particular people who became martyrs rebelled against the Kabaka.
Yes, against the Kabaka.
But the question is...
And the chief judge has ruled.
The question is, more than a century later, the country has grown in faith.
Yes.
These particular individuals have graduated from rebels to martyrs and saints.
And that's what
so from a religious perspective, maybe it might be a question about your own faith.
No, I'm coming to that. Now, the other question is an ideological one and a political one. As far as I'm concerned, I think we need to discuss it more. Whether it was legal or administrative right to rebel against the Kabaka. Now, when you come today, normally I have had an opportunity to be a leader around town here. When it is coming to 1st January, 31st December, you find all churches, all playgrounds, all mosques full. When you go to Namugongo now, I think they were saying about 5 million people. And I'm asking myself, those who go to churches are called Christians. Those who go to mosques are Muslims, and they all believe in God. Those who are in Namugongo, about 5 million, are believers. And I'm asking, with all these believers in this country, I'm a chairman of security in Uyukwe now. How come that criminals are increasing? Every day, I'm telling you, police slips out. Me, they call me almost 3 a.m. Thieves are breaking here and there. You have seen the recent murders. So, what is the problem?
What do you think is the problem? You said you studied politics.
Yeah, I think the problem.
Maybe a bit of psychology.
I think the problem is that we don't practice what we say. Yeah, I'm very sure these churches which are full, mosques which are full, if we are practicing what we say, criminality would be going down. But I think, like for instance, this issue we're trying to analyze, for instance, the politicians who normally go to number one, including Sharam, it's a question of votes.
Does that include...
Yeah, I have gone to campaigns.
Does that include your chairman? Because your chairman he made very specific comments.
Yes.
And those comments, I'm asking, do you practice? You're just questioning. Do you
Yes,
practice
I'm asking it. Because, you see, fortunately, for us politicians, we are like religious leaders. Where people are gathered, that's where you find them to pass on your message. There's no single politician that would miss that occasion. Nobody. Even if you don't believe what they are doing.
Salam, would you like
and I'm asking myself, if we have these believers...
You say when you're working with atheists...
Let me conclude it. If we are having all these believers, where does criminals come from? Because I'm tired. Lastly, on what you were asking, President Museveni, I think, is a slave of the law. You made the president of this country, gave him authority to administer. Then you gave him a document called the Constitution, which does not allow him, to order to arrest, does not allow him to judge. That's why he's also lamenting. They arrest you the next day.
I thought the Constitution had given him an order to attend. No, to attend.
That Constitution allows him, if they arrest you through his order, you must go through court, then the judge, the discretion of the judge, either to leave you there or to leave you to get out. So the president is enslaved by the
We'll just let Salam respond to you.
For me, I really have problems with him because he has a conceptual problem of what government is. He simply does not understand this animal called government. He doesn't understand the thing called a constitution, any order in society. And so he questions everything, he rationalizes everything, and rationalizes failure. If I'm to stick with the events of the day, pilgrimage to Nagongo, which is on our Catholic calendar, a day, and I'm surprised that it's also the same day for the Protestants, because they protested everything Catholic. Why would they want 3rd June to embrace them too? Because this is about belief. This is about us and what we believe in and what we profess. Okay? It does no harm if they do. It does no harm. But I want you to anchor the event on its taproot.
Which is?
Which is Catholicism. Which is Rome. Okay?
Those who died were only Catholics?
The ones we know are 22. The ones we celebrate are 22.
And the
plus the 2 of Gildo, the ones in Paimol. That is our faith. That's who we are. That's the package we are.
Here the next
okay?
now.
It's not a struggle. This is about, you see, this is who we are. It's about identity. It's about choice. And it's about your belief. And for me, I say so because my catechism brought me to understand why martyrdom. I'm not a pretender. I practice largely what I believe I stand for. Fairness, I stand for equity, and I believe there's enough for all of us. And that's what leadership, what brought me into leadership. And that's what we leaders should reflect on. Today, as I looked around, I saw all these guys that were dishing out money in Rukungiri. And I said, guys, what are you doing here? Have you come for confession? They couldn't look me straight in the eye. I said, look, We are supposed to live the word. We are supposed to live the word. Don't be pretenders. You cannot be double. I taught this way, I taught that way. Be real, be yourself. And so I agree with him that for some, it is showbiz. For some, it is to come and eat pork, as you saw. For some, it is really a beach experience. For some, it's truly business, just like you see Christmas. Everybody has forgotten why Christmas. It is a shopping spree. It is for China to make money, and we have lost the essence, the salt in it. What this calls for is for all of us to reflect, and for the people who are affected, the people who believe in this, to reflect. I was juxtaposing this with making a holy pilgrimage to Mecca. It's for those who believe in that. The people who hold the Islamic faith, Islam, the religion of peace, that make it as one of the pillars. And so we have mixed things, you know. We get things out of context and we derail. For me, I believe that the day of the Uganda Martyrs should be a reflection on governance. It be a reflection on brutality, of lack of dialogue, you know, restlessness, anxiety. All these are in the realm of governance. And that's what we should be reflecting.
Isn't it surprising then that you question why the Anglicans also celebrate their those who were martyred on the same day?
Tell me, just ask me why.
Yes, that's exactly the question I'm asking.
Because these were canonized, and a day was fixed on the Catholic calendar as third. Was it fixed also on the Anglican calendar as third? If it was, that's no problem. Yes, that's no problem to me.
But the martyrs were martyred together, whether they're Catholic or Anglican. And I think
Muslims even.
And Muslims. And what I
that
think...
that day.
What I think
that
obtains
day
is that...
from the calendar, because the executions happen differently.
Yes.
3rd June was the day that was commissioned as to observe that. 3rd. It's not that you see this happened this day and therefore.
Maybe
no.
You should have 3 days for Catholics.
Well, you could have a month. You could have a month if you want. You could have a month. But you see, if you don't believe in martyrdom and you don't believe in sainthood, you don't follow the saints. Leave them to the ones who know, for God's sake. Yes. Live your faith. That is all I'm asking.
I think there's a slight difference between martyrdom and sainthood.
Very huge one.
Isn't there?
Why is it?
Because
why is today on the Catholic calendar?
The celebration is a martyr's day. The Catholics beatified their martyrs and made them saints. I think there's a slight difference there on the significance of this particular day.
So is it a national day?
It's a national day.
An international day?
No, it's a day on the Catholic calendar, yes.
Adopted by the state.
Also a day on the Anglican calendar, as it appears now, but adopted by the state.
And you can see where we are like it head.
No, we don't have to head nowhere. We don't have to head nowhere.
I must confess I'm not deeply schooled in this. I wish we had Wandera here. He would have helped us, give us a different perspective. But
there's no other perspective. That's the perspective.
We'll have an opportunity to bring him in.
The perspective that you cannot wish away.
Ladies and gentlemen,
there was a judge at that time who made the ruling.
We need
maybe if we start questioning whether the judge was lawful or unlawful.
We need to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be plunging deep into Rukungiri, as Salamu Sumba tells us. People who are dishing out money, who were intimidating voters, possibly, who were doing all sorts of things in the Rukungiri by-election, were appearing very pious. Very pious at Namugo. So we'll be analyzing the Rukungiri by-election during the post-mortem. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we started with a brief on the Uganda Martyrs Day, which was celebrated today at Namugongo for both the Anglican and the Catholics. And Salamu Sumbaya is raised something that is sure bound to generate a lot of debate going forward. Someone just sent me a message and said, The comment about Protestants having to protest everything is completely misguided. Salam Musumba should know that 23 Protestants were killed, 22 Catholics were killed at Namugongo. But we'll be moving on.
So we go to numbers.
We'll have to move on and... a post-mortem of the Rukungiri by-elections, which brought or is bringing Betty Bamukwatsa Muzanira into parliament with 50,611 votes, defeating the National Resistance Movement candidate Winnie Matsuko, who polled 46,379 votes in that election. I've seen some interesting analysis on why this result came out this way. But everybody you can imagine for a by-election was camped in Rukungiri. Salam Musumba was camped in Rukungiri. I am sure, I don't know if Bamwina was there, but I'm told Bamwina wasn't there. But a lot of other RDCs were in Rukungiri, I was told, to make sure that the NRM had a fair shake at that election. The People's Progressive Party had a candidate, and like we had from Robert Mugabe, polled 200 votes. I want to start with you, Fred. The NRM lost this election after making very, very heavy investment. Why did you lose this election?
Well, first of all, I don't think that it was a heavy investment. But what is factual, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate those who participated in this election, both those who won and those who lost. It was a political contest, and nobody can deceive that NRM did not want this position. We want it badly. And I normally say that the biggest challenge of NRM is failure to manage success. Because in the history of this country, at least, you are sure that a sitting government can organize an election and lose it, which was never thought of before. It's a very huge achievement for NRM to have reached the level. You go and contest with the people you are vying with for power, and you lose to them. And
Fred,
yes, it's a political contest.
Could you look our viewers could you look straight into that camera,
yes,
and look our viewers in the eye and tell them what you just said?
I'm saying that this is a very huge milestone. One of the 10 points of NRM was democracy. And democracy is to give the people chance to vote for the leaders they want. And it is now being practiced that a sitting government can organize election and it loses. And that's a political contest, what NRM fought for. But why I'm saying that the problem of NRM is failure to manage success, nobody is pulling it out. So this is what people fought for. Democracy for people to exercise their right and vote for the leaders of their choice.
You have specific reasons why you lost the Rukungiri by
yes,
election.
I'm coming to it. Two, when you analyze, first I said, nobody can say that we didn't want that constituency. We wanted it, and we want it actually still. We lost the MPship, which we wanted badly. But we also won 3 town councils out of 4. And we took all the councillors of all those town councils. Now, if you have to count the question of who won and who lost, maybe you can jubilate because we missed a member of parliament, but also these positions we got. I think
how many constituencies and how many members of parliament representing Rukungiri as a district are
I
there?
think there are 4. Now the 3 are not ours. Yes, 3 are not ours. There are 4, 3 are not ours.
And you still
those
consider
people
that
who
victory?
No. Those people who are saying we lost, we also want to, you need also to look behind. What was the performance in 2016? FDC won that district by 59,000 votes. And we lost it with 52,000. So I don't know whether we have changed That time it was 59. This time they got 50,000. But if you look at the margin, they won that time and they have also won today. So I don't know whether it is a plus or negative, but as far as I'm concerned, those who like football, they know what they call home ground.
So that is, you're conceding that Rukungiri is home ground?
As far as I'm concerned, this is where Besigye is born, and who is a permanent presidential candidate for FDC and opposition. This that now for FDC, because at times other parties bring theirs, but at least he's a permanent candidate for FDC. He's born there, and that is his home ground. So in a home ground, in a home ground, for you to win with 3%.
Let's cut a bit of the politicking here,
Yes.
and
No,
look
but
at
those are facts.
Let's cut a bit of the politicking here and look at the facts. From members even of the national resistance movement I have spoken to, and from things I have read, they're saying, one, just like you accused Besigye of being permanent, you deployed everybody who is out of age and therefore out of touch with the majority of the voting population in that district. In your representatives, your key representatives, Jim Owezi, who was a former member of parliament for Jumbura, he was defeated by an FDC person. In General Tumukunde, who represented Rubabo in the Constituent Assembly and has been at the top. In presenting Winnie Matsuko, who has been there before and wants to keep hanging on there, doesn't want to give way. That, just a moment, in presenting a divided political party where a former minister, Mbaguta, Sezi, Mbaguta, was contesting and smarted out of that election with 993 votes, that, and the constituency in which you used government, taxpayers' money just before nomination and poured 5 billion shillings, unexplained, the purpose of which was not clearly explained, but beyond politicking and showing that money has been distributed, that people are protesting against some of these things, and they have made that clear by telling you this is not what Rukungiri wants. Rukungiri wants better.
I think that kind of analysis is partly right and partly wrong. But I was trying to say that if you have a home ground and you win by 3% out of 100, I don't think that you are performing very well. Because when you look at the performance of 2016 and now, they have reduced in the numbers as opposition. But two, the analysis you have brought out, because this is a time to...
Show me a by-election that returns the same number of voters. I'm coming. Or same percentages.
It is also true that this is a time for NRM to analyze this election so that we can avoid
a
repeat of such a scenario. Because any constituency we lose is also so dear for us, although we have many. But I wouldn't, as far as I'm concerned, like when I see Sarah Musumba not with us in the same camp, I don't feel comfortable. I must do whatever it takes to bring her back.
Okay.
So the analysis is right, in a sense that we have a party which has its internal problems. For instance, we have a challenge that the secretariat, when we finish elections, we don't quickly go back to the population to talk to them, organize them, and be able to identify the day-to-day running of it. So I think we, as a party secretariat, we must go behind and always reactivate our structures, not necessarily to come a day to voting and then you vote. Now, the question of the money that was taken there by before elections, you know, the president of Uganda has his responsibilities as a president. He has his manifesto. He pledged to the population to develop the people. So it is his presidential initiative, prerogative initiative, to develop any area of his choice. Here in Mayugi, he has a model farm. In Ruwero here, he has a model farm.
Okay.
So the president has that prerogative that he can go and have his initiative to develop an area. But what I also have to say, that as people who still want to be around politically, there are some things internally we must iron out.
Okay.
The differences within the party are not healthy.
Okay.
Two leaders in one party in a district to find that they are fighting each other is not healthy.
Nteja Simba is watching us and says Rukungiri, Besije comes from Rukungiri. I also married from Rukungiri. Anybody who expected to defeat Besije in his home turf in a by-election where he is 100% free is a daydreamer. My in-laws I talked to before elections assured me that NRM was bound to lose.
But how come that the margin is so narrow?
The margin is narrow. I don't know. Salam Sumba was camped in Rukungiri for some time, but I would imagine that I have not seen a by-election that turns out higher numbers than the general election.
I can give you an example here. Chad on what?
The one of Bobby Wine.
Yes. Bobby Wine got 20, I think 25, and we got 5,000. The margin was huge. How come that here we have a margin of 3%? But anyway, they have won. But as an analyst, I think NRM played their part. We have won 3 town councils out of 4. We have got majority councillors now. I think if we build from there, in some 2 years to come, we shall be on top of the situation.
The Honorable Salam Musumba, did you go into this election expecting to win? And if you did, I need to respond to what Bamwine talks about. That the margin is not that impressive, that your numbers can't actually dent the majority that the NRM already enjoys in Parliament.
Well, will you accept that we won?
I've said it.
That's what matters. That's what matters. We won, and we won by defiance. We won not because this was a free and fair election. We did not win because you wanted us to win. We won. And just settle down. That's what happened. I even
you just won, or you won? Why? Because you...
We won, and you must first of all accept that.
You won not because...
And not because it was a free and fair election. No, it wasn't. Have you ever seen that level of deployment of military assets to an election? A civic exercise, not a military operation. And you think that atmosphere was free and fair? It wasn't, of course. For me, I just was, and I remain incensed by the fact that one group of people has debased an entire nation, debased it to the level of where they're equal to a heap of bananas, a heap of tomatoes, that you can
Can I ask you a question?
You can derail an entire society.
To make a point, and
you know,
you
derail an entire society. I've never seen a country with guys who hold titles that are not befitting them. They're not even worth the trousers they are wearing. Because, listen to me, how on earth can a guy with a title called a general go to bribe ordinary citizens? Bribery, raw. Not even sophisticated bribery, but raw. You know?
Who are you referring to?
The 2 generals that were there. I could tell you there was a colonel. You know, their names are strange. There was there were RDCs. There were all sorts of people, high-sounding names. This guy of prisons, you know, somebody you hold in the highest esteem, was brought down by this election. Through bribery. I mean, you cannot be a stage of bribery.
I just wanted to ask you a question.
Please, please, don't ask me. Don't ask me.
But you're the one on stage.
Don't ask me. Just listen to me. Because you were not there. I was there.
That's what I wanted to
I
ask.
was there. And I'm telling you, it is a horror. It is class suicide for our groomed model leaders, we thought, to sink that law. To sink that law, I can show you a video of a bribery, raw. You cannot reduce your own people to this kind of thing.
So the question I wanted to...
So let me tell you, you cannot use government, public resources in this way. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. I don't care whether we lost or won or what. I just want to look at a higher level. What are we bequeathing to this nation politically?
The question I wanted to ask, you have mentioned about the level of deployment. Actually, even you mentioned it in Namugongo. And I'm asking myself, this deployment you're talking about, one, they didn't interfere with the voters. Two, was it saying these are voters of opposition, therefore they are scared, and the NRM people are not scared? Have we had political confrontation, or you would have wished insecurity to prevail over, and then we have a stampede? I thought once you deploy in an area which is for everybody, people do their work as long as you don't interfere with others' lives. Is that so bad? Because even Namugongo said, how Ngongo security is an inconvenience. I thought for you to go in Rukungiri, do your activity, if for instance, I have seen Salam Musumbis from Busoga, I have seen people from Mbale, others from Guru, all of them were in that area.
Do you think Banyakoles don't live in Busoga?
That's what I'm saying. That was not a normal.
Are you saying the Bagisus Banyakole don't live in Mbale?
I've seen campaigns.
Yes.
What would necessitate Salam Musuma to come from her constituency, go and camp in Rukungiri?
You see,
because it had its own support voters.
I don't think this
I wanted you to quote one NRM people who came from their regions to go and camp in Rukungiri. So that was not a normal situation. And security
Am I an enemy? Am I an enemy? Is FDC an enemy?
But you can box me.
I can't.
And security is there to say, Saram, don't box this boy.
Oh my God.
And that's the work. And they have done it.
You've reduced yourself to that?
If you had said that when they came in, they participated in elections, then I would have listened. But I thought they deployed in an area for all the people of Rukungiri. And they have voted, and there's no stampede of insecurity.
Well,
and do you know that we have 8 people arrested?
Can we raise the level of this discussion? I think the context in which Salam Musumba raises the question of security is not in provision of security, the way you're looking at it. And I think we need to confront this. And I also wanted to come back to Salam Musumba. You talk about the question of bribery and saying people reduced themselves to such a level of bribery. I am looking at a list of a number of charge sheets from the Uganda Police Force. I'll read for you some. Uganda versus Tuhairwe Peter, male adult, aged 50 years, Muhoro by tribe, district councillor, resident of Kacheka, cell, Northern Ward, Western Division, Rukungiri District, statement of offence, voter bribery, contrary to section 68(1) of Parliamentary Elections Act 2015, Tuhairwe Peter on the 31st day of May 2018 at Kacheka cell in the Rukungiri district was found bribing voters to vote for a parliamentary candidate, Muzanera Betty. I want to imagine Muzanera Betty is the FDC candidate. Just a moment. I'll read another one.
No, I can't.
Uganda versus Rutaro Athanasius, male adult, aged 72 years, old of Amhororo, Amhororo by tribe, self-employed, a resident of Nyaburindo, Cell, Chitimba Parish, Nyakajeme, sub-county. The charge is the same. I am seeing there are quite a number here. My understanding is that about 12 people were arrested on that day, and they're being charged with bribery.
Let me tell you,
yes.
Athanasius Rutaro, a very decent citizen of this country, was picked on his way to supervise election from the sub-county headquarters, Nyakajeme, to put him out of action to monitor the election. Anyone who knows Athanasius Rutaro knows he is a decent citizen who can't even bribe a fly. He can't. These are all charges preemptive in order to go to court and nullify the vote. But it's not true that we ever bribed nobody. But I'll tell you.
Why do you believe that your opponents actually did bribe?
Because we saw, and we have evidence. You see, if you allowed me to show you my evidence, you would not be arguing with me. We made complaints to the complaints desk. We made it known to the chairman of the Electoral Commission. We even asked him if he wanted to prove us wrong, we could walk into into Jim Muhwezi's home, where they were pre-ticking votes in the neighborhood.
And there was police. Why didn't you report?
We did.
They were pre-ticking it in his home or in
the neighborhood, in his neighbors. I forget the name.
Mm.
You know, I tell you, I have problems with those names. We complained to the Electoral Commission on the eve.
So why would you be walking into Jim?
Because they said, you see, Jim.
When the pre-ticking was being done in the neighborhood.
Because he was the commander.
Then he got to his home or to where the
both
was being done?
Because this was the store, the other one was the scene of crime.
So did you report the matter?
We did report the matter. Nothing was done. Nothing was done. Like nothing will do. You see, there's a model. There's a model of campaign management that you are so familiar with, that you have normalized, that you believe that police works for this country. No, it doesn't work for us. It works for them. It does.
But in Najanankumbi, when there was a scuffle, you invited the police and it protected you. If it was working for NRM, how come it was invited to Najanankumbi and it did its work?
In the election that I'm talking about.
You said police works for NRM, not.
And so it does.
Najanankumbi, NRM does not camp in Najanankumbi. And there is proof twice when you had a scuffle.
Well, you want to know about Rukungiri?
Sure.
The bribery was massive. The bribery, money had been distributed per cell. Money was being shared per cell, and nobody was arrested. We have footage of all those briberies, many of them, and I tell you, no policeman will have even a charge sheet done. All this is in an effort, one, to bring up charges against. That's why you had, in sync with the president's utterances, is that how could I want to review that judgment that 50,000 alleged bribe can nullify an election. So the entire trend is moving. But well, allow me to congratulate the people of Rukungiri. You battled with the military, you battled with the generals, you battled with robbers, you battled and battled with the security, like that polling station in Shemere, something. There were 3 of them. One is at a health center, community hall, and one is at a school. Those 3, each of them had 350, 350, and 300. 1,000 votes in question. That is where they stuffed. But like people who have lost touch with society, they didn't know that 1,000 votes would not make a difference. I want to tell you that the people of Rukungiri had to put up with a lot of fear. These machines that are rolled out in southern Sudan or in Somalia, where the machines
so
that
were
were
if this opposition which is scared, or the entire population?
Well, you scare ordinary people. You scare ordinary people. And it's just not right. That's not the atmosphere in which elections are expected to be held. So the margin reduced
because opposition got scared and NRM did not get scared. That's what I wanted to know. Because the deployment did not interfere with people's voting.
It did.
How?
It did. And pickups of policemen were picking up our voters, our people. They were targeted and being taken to prison. They were taken.
How many people were arrested?
I don't know. Because I was looking for votes. I don't know how many were voted.
But the voters were being taken away, so you should have been interested to know where your voters were being taken.
I wasn't in charge of that department. But I will tell you that Taro was arrested at about 7, between 6 and 7.
From those messages, he has read for us some of the people that were charged. I would also be interested whether there is any reference number, assuming police did not want to cooperate, but is there any reference number where you reported a bribing case and police did not respond?
I will tell you that I sent an email to the returning officer, Mr. Umar, listing all the issues that we were dealing with by 9:30 that morning. I sent him an email. I called him. I said, look, what can you do to help these situations? And I sent him an email.
Did he respond?
He didn't.
Now that you saw some bribing, are you intending to petition?
Nteja Simwe is watching us and has come back and says, allow Musomba present her evidence of bribery. She doesn't have any. she is just playing politics. I challenge
Can I
her
get
to
it?
produce
That's why
I want to
Yes,
bring
I
it.
challenge her to produce it.
Do you want me to?
Sure.
Thank you.
it will help us. But if so far, even there is no registered case.
Let's continue with the discussion in the meantime. Salam has gone to collect some evidence.
But so
Robert
far,
Mugabe, just a moment. Robert Mugabe, you had a candidate who performed miserably. 200 votes. You said your intention was not to win that election, but you intended. You had other purposes, other intentions for fielding a candidate.
Yes.
And there are all these allegations flying around, intimidation, voter bribery. I haven't had Musumba's verdict on the performance of the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission might have different opinions. Your own experience as a party?
Charles, I think, yes, PPP went into that election knowing clearly that we did not have a chance. Shall I continue?
The video is only playing for us. Unfortunately, our viewers can't benefit from it.
Yeah.
But I've seen that video, Salam Subabs. I've seen that video before. I don't know who is involved because this woman says we are catering for our people. I don't know who our people represent in this case.
but
Yeah.
I think the best proof of
Hold it a
that
moment. Let's have Robert come in.
We are clear about what we wanted to get, and one, we are very thin in Western Uganda and Rukungiri, to be specific. So we wanted to use that opportunity to, recruit and boost our membership. But I wouldn't want to take a lot of time on this, Charles. The issue, and these are my just a disclaimer, these are my own personal opinions.
They're not PPPs.
They're not PPP's opinions. The question of electoral democracy in this country, we've been treated to something that is near to electoral democracy. And my own sense is that we seem to be accepting an abnormal situation to be a normal situation. We swim against the tide, and somehow we are happy to swim against the tide. If you look at the landscape of elections in this country, Charles, you will want to know that before we voted in 2016, I think the NRM already had over 10 district chairpersons, and I think a few members of parliament who were unopposed. Charles, you want to know that combined opposition, we were not able to field enough candidates for all the constituencies that we have in this country. Charles, you may wish to know that it was a scandal that 3 million shillings were levied on the nomination fees. That's a scandal. And for me, and that can go on and on. Of course, if you come to the specifics, why do you disenfranchise the citizens from
200,000
from a process that is supposed to make them govern themselves? This is the gist of the matter. But if you want to come to the specifics,
isn't it a complaint of the citizens that these elected officials become a burden on the taxpayer because once they arrive in parliament, they are trying to make their first the real money from there, so they are going to charge exorbitantly on the tax on the revenue pass of the country.
So by this, they are getting back the money?
That you want to get people who are viable, both financially,
Charles,
and they have.
No.
Look,
yes,
this parliament.
That's not the purpose of democracy.
This parliament,
It's not.
This current parliament, we have, I think, people who, first of all, if you look at their educational background, they are degree holders, they are masters, they have a PhD, many of them. If you look at their financial, status, they're doing fairly well. So it's not true that it is because you have people who do not have resources going to elective positions. That's why we have a problem with our governance. No, it's not true. It is a question of culture that the current regime brought here in this country, that we have a problem in our governance. But
by your own admission, you did not send a viable candidate into this election. The PPP candidate
I was coming to
was
that.
not deployed in
building my
as a
background.
viable candidate who could win this election
Just
on their own.
I'm building a background. I'm coming back to the specific election. if you want Rukungiri, Charles, look at this was a military operation. This was not an election.
It wasn't.
This was trading. You know, I don't know how much money was sunk in Rukungiri. Now, for me, the debate that we need to be having, Charles, is not whether an election, because we know the odds that, you know, we face when we go for these elections. The debate that we should be having, Charles, is how do we improve our electoral democracy, our landscape, electoral landscape. For me, and that's why I'm interested in the ending part of your topic today. What next for this country? I think the debate that my sister and Mr. Bamwine have been engaged in does not help us, because it is not going to lift this country from where it is. It is good to point out, but we've been pointing out the problems. The issue for me is, how do we move from here so that we can have a equal ground for competition in elections in this country, so that we remove money from our politics, so that we are able to you know, to put ideas up and not money. For me, these are the discussions that we need to be having. And I think the only way, because I don't want insurrection. I think we've come of age as a country. I don't want to go the direction.
Let's do the audit, Mr. Mugabe.
Yes.
You fielded a candidate.
Yes.
You did not expect to win. That's
for sure. That's for sure.
Yes.
But I have moved.
How do you lift? How does that help lift the discussion from where it is to a discussion of ideas? Because if the candidate went into this election to sell their ideas, that would have given them a fair shot at victory.
Charles, I moved from discussing our candidate. I was looking at a bigger picture. I'm no longer. I told you clearly.
How do you build that bigger picture if individual political parties, the NRM, the FDC, PPP, the Democratic Party, Uganda People's Congress, whatever sort of parties do exist out there, are not having that discussion internally on, one, why do you go into this election? Who do you field as a candidate in these elections? And what odds stand against that particular candidate? And why should you validate a process that you think is actually, you said normalizing what is abnormal?
Yes.
I think those were your words.
Yes.
Yes. Why should we go into that?
Clearly, Charles, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. But of course, every political party has its own objectives. I told you clearly that for us in this particular election, we went because we wanted to create ground for the party. That does not mean, Charles, that we do not disagree entirely with the way elections are conducted in this country. And I'm saying, because we disagree, that discussion should be, we should be having them in fora like this one.
But you agree, Robert, that by participating in those processes you disagree with, you validate them.
Charles, for goodness sake, I am not disagreeing in as far as what you are stating is. I'm not disagreeing. I told you that by the time that we go in an election in this country, clearly we know the odds are against us.
Yes.
But we go into these elections with different objectives. Now, what you are raising is that if we cannot, if we go into these elections with different objectives, can we reach a ground where we are saying, look, guys, whatever objectives take us to elections, we need to now clean the electoral processes. That is the point we have reached.
Okay.
And I think we need to have that discussion.
I'm afraid we need to take a quick commercial break. But I'll take a message from Frank Tumusime, who says, in society, there are people who are slow at identifying real national problems, especially where money, patronage, muzzle their judgment, as in Uganda. But Rukungiri elections shows that people have started to see through the deception. It means deception by money, military might, and patronage is winning on its own. I don't know how valid this claim is. We'll subject it to the test after a very short commercial break. We'll be right back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and this is our last segment. We're doing a post-mortem of the Rukungiri by-election. And before I come back to you, let me start with Salam. So I'm ask the question. Why do you, what does this mean? Because one is the opposition always complains about the Electoral Commission, complains about the military deployment, complains about voter bribery, complains about intimidation, complains about the state being deployed against it. And the value and quality of elections has not stopped being questioned. Now, I know that the FDC, for example, has won 2 successive elections now. You won in Jinja Municipality East.
And want to reclaim them.
You have won in Rukungiri. There is an ongoing contest in Shema Municipality.
There are 7 municipalities.
Yes.
That are going to elect 6.
So Shema,
6 members
Bujiri,
of parliament.
yes.
Ivanda, Kotido.
Yes. And FDC and the opposition generally hasn't fared very well in newer constituencies. I don't know what your chances are in these ones.
I don't want to indulge in speculation. I want just to tell you the basic facts that we want 2 post-Tojikwatako elections. We did. The politically defining line is amendment of the Constitution.
December 2017.
Correct. Bad Christmas. And so we are tracking the response of the citizens, because the citizens said clearly, please don't touch our Constitution.
Then why were you bribing voters?
We have not bribed any voter.
They have the charge sheets.
And I don't want to get into that dismal debate, because that charge sheet is framed by an Onyango, who you saw there, and his police, where they are powerless, toothless. They're just dogs that are chasing around people for arrest over nothing. You could check anybody and they'll tell you that you cannot accuse Tenasius Rutaro of that kind of thing. We are going into other elections and we are going for nominations tomorrow. Maybe it should please you to know that NRM will have its nominations tomorrow, and it will not have time to process any disagreement, and they will walk into the election with an unfinished process of nominations, their internal processes. And so I find it very pleasing to hear Bamwine here accept that within their party there are internal problems, because for a long time they've harangued us. Harangued us. They said you are divided, you are what? We said no, we are strong, and now he can happily plead that they have issues.
Yeah,
I don't want them to have issues. I want them to be democratic internally so that they can offer democracy to the nation. We have.
Have you not had Forum for the Democratic Development?
And so, going to...
Have you not heard of it?
You know, it is not there.
Forum for Democratic Development is having a meeting in Bara tomorrow.
That is not Forum for Democratic Change. I only speak for Forum for Democratic Change. And therefore, these processes, going back to Rukungiri, I want to keep my mind. I want to keep my mind to Rukungiri and tell you that the ordinary people have found their energy. They have found their resolve. They have found their voice. They have found a champion in FDC. They have found leadership in FDC, and we are willing to offer that leadership. We are getting set for the elections at LC1, whether it will be by lining up, whether it will be by secret ballot, whatever it is, we are ready, set to go.
Isn't that what you always say when you win an election? That the people
we
have found their voice, the people have defined.
We have, ours is Forum for Democratic Change.
Yes.
I want you to understand us clearly. And we have chosen democracy as the path.
What I'm saying is,
there's no other way.
Every election, the complaint that comes up is that every election that you lose, you complain about an unfair.
And we, even when we won, when we win, I have told you we didn't win because it was a free and fair election. We won by defiance. And we shall continue to win by defiance and to overthrow this regime by defiance.
Fred Bamwine, you've been itching to say something, and I've been trying to gag you all the time. So now you have.
You have done it successfully.
Yes.
Because
no, I was trying to allow that we have a fair discussion here for everybody.
But she has spoken twice. That's not fair.
I should be the one complaining.
One, the Bible has a book called the Book of Lamentation. I don't think it is really prudent for Honorable Salam Musumba, Honorable Member of Parliament, leader of FDC, sees people being bribed, and he fails to go to